Greetings, rats stacked in trench coats. I'm Ash, and I have absolutely lost control of my life. Welcome to my channel if you're new, and welcome back if not. This video is the second part in a mini-series I'm creating, where I'll talk about the character's backstory while also drawing January art prompts from one of my art groups. I hope that made sense. Today's prompt was Hope, and the character drawn in the scene is Alicia. Alicia, canonically in their main dimension, is a time traveler who currently has a job as a bartender, creating potions, letting others travel back in time for a certain price. I wrote a longer story for this up on my DeviantArt, I think, but I'm probably not going to be able to find the link, so that won't be in the description, unfortunately. However, the scene is set off main dimension canon. Before I say any more, I have to explain some of this dimension shit. I'm not going to explain the creation because that's a story for a different prompt, and I'd run out of things to say in further videos if I just said it all here, so. But yeah, going on. In my character world, there are different dimensions, created by choices and or situations. A good example, I cannot speak today, I'm sorry, of this is whether I dropped my phone into the canal this morning. In one dimension, I would have dropped my phone into the canal, and I would have had to get a new phone, thus causing the timeline to change. In the other dimension, split from this situation though, I would not have dropped my phone into the canal, and I wouldn't need to get a new phone, thus causing the timeline to change in a different way. Dimensions will always be unique, no matter how tiny the difference. There are an infinite amount of small dimensions split off from small choices. But there are three main dimensions. 1-0, Matrix, and Akura. I'm not going to go into detail into all of this, but 1-0 was the dimension described in my last video. This current thing is set in a small side dimension. Well, I say small, but like the events are pretty massive, but you know, if that makes sense. Anyways, going on with the actual story of the piece. Alicia is lured and changed in the side dimension. She's still like a traveling bartender, but yeah, in the original, their first customer was one of my other characters. I think it was Tempest. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Who wanted to blow up a city with a mask, and she fooled Alicia into letting her go back, get the mask, and nearly blow up the world. Wow, so creative. I know. In this alternate dimension, though, Alicia's first customer was instead a different character who wished to go back in time to save his dying mother. The design for this character is not out yet, but I will design him as soon as I can. However, wow, what a surprise! It was another trick! The person who wanted to go back in time was actually the father of the president of the country Alicia resided in. Good thing, right? Nope. The reason he wanted to go back was because he didn't agree with a choice his child made about the country. Well, like, fuck you, I can't stop you, but I will go back in time and stop you from getting elected in the first place. That sounded so evil. Totally. But the way he did this was illegal, as it did involve him crossing dimensions and getting a piece of crystal, which allowed him to control minds. This allowed the rip which teleported Alicia to the dimension she resides in, now even earlier than she should have. I probably should have phrased that differently because the script is kind of cursed. I'm writing this kind of, like, you know. But basically, it means that Alicia doesn't come from the dimension she currently lives in. She traveled here from a different dimension, which was currently corrupted by war, and she lost all her memories after traveling here. But, a rip in a river, in a flooding river, caused her to, travel to this dimension, and that rip was caused earlier than it should have been by the dimension traveling and the crystal, and etc. But basically, after this crystal became exposed by, a spy who was, sent to, spy on the president, the future president, because they weren't elected yet. Well, their father, but Alicia's first customer. I'm making this very confusing. I should actually give them names. I should actually give them names. Anyways. After this crystal became exposed, a civil war broke out because of the false rumors the father spread about his child. Alicia, at this point, who has knowledge about the mind control crystal, goes on to their president's side, and while fighting is outside, she broke into the vault containing the crystal through a fire, which is where the scene is set, to break in and to steal the crystal, and to put an end to pure chaos. Wow. She ended up failing and being held hostage inside the flames outside the vault. But wow, plot twist! The person holding her hostage forgot to put on a fireproof suit and instead accidentally put on a radioactive proof suit? Lead suit, whatever you want to call it. I'm not sure what you want to call it, but you know. And burned to death before she could. Before Alicia could burn to death. Probably should have phrased that differently. I should have phrased a lot of things in the script differently. I'm sorry. And Alicia's side ended up winning the war. However, because most of the entire dimension was basically wrecked from fighting by that point, Alicia used the power of the crystal to open a portal to an unresided dimension for the population to settle on. I know what you're thinking. Ash, isn't that illegal inside the dimension? Why are you making this storyline like this? This does not make sense. Well, desperate situations call for desperate measures, so that law was ignored for the time being. That concludes the story for this piece. I am going to be uploading these every day up to the start of February, so if you're interested in learning more about the world in general, you enjoy my videos, if you want to support me for whatever reason, consider subscribing and or leaving a like. It's free and helps me out a ton, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day, night, 3 a.m., whatever you're watching. However, if it is 3 a.m. for you, please sleep.